Owen Hayes stood in the lobby of Ashford Industries, a cardboard box trembling in his calloused hands. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as security badges beeped past him, colleagues who wouldn't meet his eyes. He'd just been fired for crashing the company's backup server, a crime he didn't commit but couldn't prove he didn't do. The evidence was ironclad. His login credentials, his access timestamp, his guilt written in digital ink across security logs that everyone believed except one person. His 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, sat on the leather sofa by the glass doors, swinging her legs, clutching the birthday card she'd made him that morning. She looked up, saw the defeat carved into her father's shoulders, and didn't ask a single question. Instead, she ran to him, small arms wrapping around his waist, whispering words that shattered something in the chest of the woman watching from the executive elevator. "It's okay, Dad. We'll be okay." That woman, Paige Ashford, the CEO who'd built an empire on cold precision, stepped forward, her heels clicking against marble, and spoke 4 words that would unravel everything Owen thought he knew about justice, truth, and the price of a child's unwavering faith. "Come home with me. What happens when absolute trust meets absolute power? And neither one is what it seems." 3 hours earlier, Owen had been sitting at his desk in the IT support department, reviewing code for security vulnerabilities in the new protocol Calvin Fletcher had implemented. He'd noticed gaps in the firewall configuration that could expose the backup server, but when he'd mentioned it to Calvin, his concerns had been dismissed. Owen hadn't pushed harder. He'd learned that junior staff who questioned their superiors too loudly often found themselves reassigned. He needed this job desperately. The salary covered rent on the small apartment he shared with Hazel and paid for the after-school program. After his wife died 3 years ago, stability had become everything. Today was Hazel's 8th birthday, and he'd planned to leave early to take her to the diner she loved. But at 8:15, his desk phone rang with the HR extension that made his stomach drop. Within minutes, he was walking toward the 5th-floor conference room, his badge feeling heavier with each step. The conference room was cold. Calvin sat at the head of the table, his expression carefully neutral. Jennifer Walsh from HR had her laptop open. They didn't offer Owen a seat. "Mr. Hayes," Jennifer began, her voice professional and distant. "Our backup server crashed at 2:17 a.m. last night. The investigation shows the crash was caused by unauthorized access logged under your credentials." She paused. "Your username, your password, logged in from your workstation at 2 a.m. Owen's confusion was immediate. He'd been home last night, helped Hazel with homework, made spaghetti, watched her practice for the school concert. He'd been asleep by 10:30. Before he could respond, Calvin spoke with manufactured disappointment. "I trusted you with system access, Owen. The logs don't lie. Your username, your password, logged in from your workstation at 2 a.m. The backup protocol was disabled. Then the server was flooded with corrupted data packets." Calvin slid a folder across the table. "The security logs are here. The evidence is conclusive." Owen picked up the folder with shaking hands. The pages showed exactly what Calvin described. Timestamps bearing his credentials, his digital signature on actions he'd never taken. He looked up, meeting Calvin's eyes, and saw guilt flicker there for a fraction of a second. Owen understood then that Calvin had used his credentials to cover up his own mistakes, to hide the vulnerability Owen had warned about. "I didn't do this," Owen said steadily. "I was home with my daughter all night. I didn't touch the backup server. Someone else used my credentials. Someone who had reason to cover their tracks after that security protocol failed. The one I warned you about last week." The temperature dropped. Jennifer's fingers stopped moving. Calvin's expression hardened. But Jennifer was already speaking. "Mr. Hayes, we have to follow policy. The evidence is clear. Whether someone else was involved or not, your credentials were compromised. We have no choice but to terminate your employment effective immediately." She slid papers toward him. 2 weeks severance pay. Benefits through the end of the month. We'll need your badge before you leave." Owen wanted to fight, to demand deeper investigation, to prove he hadn't been there. But he looked at Calvin's face and saw the trap carefully laid. The system was rigged, and Owen had no leverage. He thought about Hazel waiting with her birthday crown made from construction paper. He thought about rent due next week and explaining to his daughter why the stability he'd promised was slipping away. He made a choice that felt like swallowing glass. "I understand," he said quietly. "I'll pack my things." The walk back to his desk felt like a funeral procession. Colleagues looked up with expressions ranging from pity to carefully maintained neutrality. No one asked what happened. No one offered support. Owen packed quickly. A coffee mug Hazel had decorated. A framed photo of her smile, his phone charger. Everything fit into a small cardboard box. His badge clicked loudly when he set it on the security desk. The guard couldn't meet his eyes. Owen turned toward the glass doors, and that's when he saw Hazel. She sat on the leather sofa where he'd told her to wait, her purple backpack beside her, the homemade birthday card clutched in her small hands. She looked up as Owen approached, processing the scene, the cardboard box, his defeated shoulders. He waited for the questions, the disappointment, but Hazel simply stood up, walked to him with squeaking purple sneakers, and wrapped her arms around his waist. "It's okay, Dad," she whispered against his shirt, and Owen felt something break inside his chest. "We'll be okay." Owen understood what unconditional love looked like. It looked like a child who believed in her father even when the world had decided he was guilty. It was trust that didn't require proof, and it made him want to be worthy of that trust more than anything, even as he stood there knowing he couldn't protect her from what came next. He was about to speak when he heard heels clicking against marble. The executive elevator had opened. Owen didn't look up at first. People like him didn't make eye contact with people like that, but the footsteps came closer, deliberate, and stopped directly in front of him. Paige Ashford stood there in a charcoal suit, her dark hair pulled back severely, her expression unreadable. Owen had seen her maybe 3 times in 2 years, always from a distance. She was known for building Ashford Industries into a major cybersecurity player, for being brilliant and uncompromising. She was not known for speaking to junior IT staff in lobbies. Their eyes met, and Owen saw something flicker in her gaze. She looked at Hazel, pressed against Owen's side, then at the cardboard box. Her expression didn't change, but the air shifted. "Come home with me," Paige said, her voice quiet but absolutely clear. Owen stared at her. Of all the things he'd expected to hear, that hadn't even made the list. "I'm sorry, what?" "Both of you," Paige continued, as if she'd just offered something perfectly normal and reasonable. "Come home with me. My car is waiting outside." Owen's mind struggled to process the words. This was Paige Ashford, the CEO, speaking to him mere minutes after he'd been fired from her company. Nothing about this made sense. He glanced around the lobby, wondering if he'd misheard or misunderstood, but her gaze remained steady, waiting for his response. "Ma'am, I don't understand," Owen managed. "I was just terminated. Why would you—" "Because I want to hear your side of the story," Paige interrupted, her tone leaving no room for argument. "And because your daughter deserves to have her birthday celebrated, regardless of what happened in that conference room." She looked at Hazel again, and something in her expression softened almost imperceptibly. "It is your birthday, isn't it?" Hazel nodded, her eyes wide. Owen felt her grip on his waist tighten slightly, seeking reassurance. He should say no. He should take his daughter and leave with whatever dignity he had remaining. But he looked at Paige Ashford's face and saw something there that made him hesitate. Not kindness exactly, but a kind of fierce determination that suggested she wasn't making an idle offer. "Please," Paige added, and that single word carried weight Owen couldn't quite measure. "My driver is very patient, but I'd rather not keep him waiting." Owen Hayes had made many decisions in his life: to marry young, to have a child, to raise Hazel alone after his wife's death. Most had been made carefully with lists of pros and cons. But standing in that lobby, holding a box and his daughter's hand, Owen made a choice based purely on instinct. "Okay," he said. "We'll come." Paige nodded and turned toward the glass doors. Owen followed. Hazel pressed close to his side, The car was sleek and black. The driver opened the door without comment. Paige gestured for them to enter first. Hazel sat very still, her birthday card clutched in her hands, eyes darting between Owen and Paige with watchful intelligence. The drive took 20 minutes through neighborhoods where houses had yards and trees lined streets. The estate was substantial. Careful landscaping, architectural details that spoke of both money and taste. Inside, the house was beautiful in an almost impersonal way. High ceilings, carefully selected artwork, expensive furniture. But Paige didn't pause. She led them to a kitchen of marble and stainless steel, pulled out a chair, and gestured for Hazel to sit. "Are you hungry?" she asked the little girl, her voice gentled. Hazel looked at Owen for permission. He nodded. "A little," Hazel admitted. Paige assembled a sandwich with practiced efficiency. Bread, cheese, fruit, homemade lemonade. She set it before Hazel along with a glass, then turned to Owen. "You can put the box down. We need to talk, but first, let me show Hazel where she can eat while the adults have a boring conversation." Owen hesitated, every protective instinct screaming, but Hazel was already sliding off the chair, plate in hand, looking at Paige with trust. Paige led them to a sitting room with a television and comfortable chairs. She turned it on, found animated movies, and set the remote within Hazel's reach. "Call if you need anything. Your father and I will be in the kitchen." Back in the kitchen, Paige poured 2 glasses of water and sat across from Owen. For a long moment, she simply looked at him. Then she spoke, calm and matter-of-fact. "Tell me what really happened." Owen's first instinct was to deflect, but he looked at Paige's face and saw no judgment, only intense focus. So he told her everything. The vulnerability in Calvin's protocol, the dismissed concerns, his routine that night at home with Hazel, the morning ambush, the fabricated logs. "I didn't touch that backup server," Owen said steadily. "Someone used my credentials to crash the system and made sure I'd take the fall. I know who, but I can't prove it." "Calvin Fletcher," Paige said. "It wasn't a question." Owen nodded. "He needed someone to blame. I was convenient." "Why didn't you fight harder?" Paige asked, something in her tone suggesting she already knew. Owen looked at his scarred, calloused hands. "Because Hazel was waiting for me. Because I needed to leave with enough dignity that I could look my daughter in the eye. Because fighting would have made things worse." He met Paige's gaze. "That probably sounds weak." "It sounds like someone who understands priorities," Paige said quietly. "It also sounds like someone telling the truth." Paige stood, walked to a laptop on the counter, and her fingers moved across the keyboard. After several minutes, she turned it toward him. "These are backup logs from the secondary server. Calvin probably didn't know it existed." She pointed at the screen. "Your credentials show access at 2:17 a.m. from an office IP, but your badge wasn't used to enter the building that night. It last registered leaving at 5:43 p.m. Owen leaned forward, heart pounding. "Someone used my credentials from inside the office." "Someone already there," Paige confirmed. The admin panel was accessed from Calvin Fletcher's workstation at 2:12 a.m., 5 minutes before the crash. Hope and anger warred in Owen's chest. "Can you prove that?" Paige closed the laptop. "I can do more than that. But I need you to understand something first. I didn't bring you here out of charity. I brought you here because I saw your daughter's face when she looked at you. That child trusts you absolutely, even when you're standing in a lobby with defeat written all over you. That kind of trust comes from consistency, from integrity, from being the kind of person who deserves it." She paused, pain flickering in her eyes. "I lost my son 2 years ago. His name was Liam. He was 8 years old. Car accident. I was driving. A truck ran a red light, and I couldn't stop it. Liam died before we reached the hospital." Owen felt his breath catch. "I'm so sorry." Paige waved away the condolence firmly. "I tell you this because you chose your daughter's dignity over your own pride. You chose to walk away because she was watching, and you wanted to show her grace. That matters." She met Owen's eyes fiercely. "What do you want from me?" "I want to know if you can prove where you were that night. Security cameras, neighbor testimony, Anything confirming you were home. Paige's expression hardened. Because I'm calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. I'm going to present evidence that Calvin Fletcher framed you and has been embezzling company funds for 6 months. Your case is key to unraveling it. But I need your cooperation. Owen's mind raced. My neighbor has a doorbell camera. It captures our door, too. It would show me coming home at 6, going inside with Hazel, not leaving until morning. Perfect. I'll need that footage. And I need you at the office tomorrow at 9 a.m. Can you do that? Owen thought about rent due next week, bills stacking up, the uncertainty crushing him. He thought about Hazel eating a sandwich made by a woman who knew what it meant to lose a child. He thought about the choice between accepting injustice and fighting for what was right. I'll be there, he said. Paige nodded with satisfaction. Good. Now, I believe there's a birthday to celebrate. I have chocolate cake. This has nothing to do with charity. Today is your daughter's 8th birthday, and she deserves one good memory from this terrible day. Owen wanted to refuse, but he thought about Hazel's promise that everything would be okay, about the birthday stolen by circumstances beyond their control. Chocolate works, he said quietly. Thank you. Paige produced a birthday cake from the refrigerator with elaborate frosting and 8 candles. She lit them while Owen fetched Hazel, and they sang Happy Birthday in this grand kitchen. Hazel's eyes went wide with delight. She made a wish and blew out the candles. They ate cake at the island, and Hazel told Paige about school and art class and the concert song. Paige listened with genuine attention, asking questions that showed real interest. After cake, Paige showed them the garden through the windows, winding paths and unexpected flowers. Hazel explored outside with the energy of a child who'd been sitting too long. Through the window, they watched her investigate with careful fascination. She's a good kid, Paige said softly. She is, Owen agreed. Liam would have been 10 now. He loved gardens too. Paige's voice was quiet, watching Hazel. Eventually, Paige spoke again. I'm going to offer you a position, IT director. Rebuild the security infrastructure properly. But this is not charity. This is me recognizing I almost lost a valuable employee because I wasn't paying attention. You see problems before they become disasters. You have integrity. I can teach technical skills. I can't teach character. I don't have the credentials for director, Owen said. I'm junior support with a community college degree. You have something better. You reported vulnerabilities even when dismissed. You chose your daughter's well-being over vindication. Paige met his gaze. I need you to think about it. I will, Owen said. They collected Hazel from the garden, hands dirty and face flushed. She thanked Paige earnestly. The drive home was quiet. That night, after Hazel slept with her new colored pencils arranged on her desk, Owen got the security footage from his neighbor and sent it to Paige's email. Morning came quickly. Owen, dressed in his best shirt and tie, dropped Hazel at school with a promise to pick her up on time, and took the bus downtown. Paige's assistant met him in the lobby and escorted him to the executive floor conference room. The board members were assembled. Paige sat at the head, and Calvin was there too, looking confident and annoyed. Owen took the seat Paige indicated, directly across from Calvin, and watched his expression shift from annoyance to confusion to fear. Thank you for coming, Paige began with authority. We're here to address yesterday's security breach and personnel action. Owen Hayes was terminated for allegedly crashing our backup server. I've conducted an independent investigation, and that decision was premature. Calvin straightened. The evidence was conclusive. The security logs show access from an office IP at 2:17 a.m. Paige interrupted sharply. But they don't show Mr. Hayes's badge entering the building. Building security confirms Hayes left at 5:43 p.m. and didn't return. She pulled up a display. This is footage from his neighbor's doorbell camera, showing Hayes entering his apartment at 6:12 p.m. with his daughter and not leaving until morning. The room fell silent. Calvin's face paled. Someone could have used his credentials remotely. Someone did, Paige agreed. Someone already in the building. Someone who accessed the admin panel from a fourth-floor workstation 5 minutes before the crash. She advanced the slide, showing log files. Your workstation, Calvin. Your access, your timing, your vulnerability in the security protocol you implemented without review. Calvin stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. Sit down, Paige said with cold authority. Calvin sat. While investigating the crash, I discovered ghost accounts in our financial system, created over 6 months. Small transfers totaling nearly $200,000. The digital signature traces to your workstation. The room erupted. Board members leaned forward, voices overlapping. Calvin's face went gray. Security officers appeared at the door, and Calvin's protests became desperate as they escorted him out. In the silence that followed, Paige turned to Owen. Mr. Hayes, on behalf of Ashford Industries, I apologize. You were wrongfully terminated. You'll be compensated accordingly, with back pay. She paused. However, I'd like to offer you a different position. IT Security Director. You'll rebuild our protocols from the ground up, implementing the changes you tried to recommend. Full authority over security infrastructure. Owen looked around the room at carefully neutral expressions. He thought about accepting, about the salary meaning stability for Hazel, but he also thought about pride and the difference between earning something and being handed it because someone felt guilty. I appreciate the offer, Owen said carefully, but I can't accept a director position I haven't earned. I don't have the experience or credentials, and I won't be effective in a role where everyone knows I only got it because of unusual circumstances. He saw Paige's expression tighten. What I would accept is a senior security analyst position. Let me prove I can do the work first. If I earn a promotion to director, I'll take it, but not like this. For a long moment, Paige simply looked at him. Then she smiled. A small, genuine smile that transformed her face. Senior security analyst it is. You start Monday. Same salary as the director position, because that's the market value for your skills. And Owen? Thank you for having integrity even when it's inconvenient. The meeting adjourned. When the room emptied except for Paige and Owen, she gestured for him to remain. When I saw you and Hazel yesterday, it reminded me of something I've spent 2 years trying to forget. Liam trusted me to keep him safe. I failed him. I couldn't stop that truck, and I've been carrying that guilt like a stone ever since. Her voice was stripped of corporate edge. I brought you here partly to right a wrong, but also because I needed to remember what it looks like when someone actually deserves a child's faith. You chose dignity because Hazel was watching. When Liam died, I showed everyone anger and grief and eventually just emptiness. I shut down. I became this. She gestured at the room. Cold, efficient, hollow. You're not betraying him by surviving, Owen said quietly. Grief doesn't mean stopping your life. It means carrying the love forward. Is that what you do? With your wife? Owen nodded. Every day. Some days it's easier. Some days the grief hits me again. But I get up, make breakfast, keep going. Because Hazel needs me to. The best way I honor my wife's memory is being the father she would have wanted our daughter to have. Paige was quiet, then spoke with tears she didn't let fall. I don't know if I can do that. You don't have to know. You just have to try. Owen turned to her. Bringing us here, investigating, fighting for what was right, that's not someone who's given up. That's someone who still remembers how to fight for things that matter. The weeks that followed were a blur of transition. Owen started at Ashford Industries on Monday, this time with an office and a team who looked at him with respect. He threw himself into the work, conducting audits and rebuilding systems. Paige checked in weekly, their conversations professional but carrying an undercurrent of understanding. Hazel's concert arrived on a rainy Thursday evening. Owen saved a seat, unsure if Paige would come. Then, 5 minutes before it began, she walked in wearing jeans and a sweater, more human than he'd ever seen her. She carried daisies. For Hazel, she said. After the performance, the concert was enthusiastic and charming. Hazel sang her solo with concentrated seriousness. Afterward, Hazel ran to Owen first. then saw Paige. Her face lit up. "You came." Hazel accepted the flowers, then hugged Paige quickly. "Thank you for my birthday cake, and for helping my dad." "I'm glad," Paige said softly, stunned by the gesture. "Do you want to come get ice cream with us?" Hazel asked. Owen nodded. "You're welcome to join us." "I'd like that," Paige said. They went for ice cream, crowding into a booth. They talked about the concert, about Hazel's upcoming art show, about everything and nothing. It felt ordinary in the best way. As they walked back to cars, Hazel between them swinging her flowers, Paige said quietly, "I donated Liam's toys to the children's hospital last week. Not all of them, but most. He would have wanted other kids to enjoy them." Owen nodded, understanding the magnitude. "That's good. That's really good." It was hard, but it was right. Paige glanced at Hazel. "Your daughter asked me what I thought Liam would want me to do. I think he'd want me to live, not just exist, but actually live. So don't be empty," Owen said simply. "Be full. It's what they would have wanted." Paige smiled, tears in her eyes that she didn't hide. "Thank you." Over the following months, Paige became part of their lives in small ways. Sunday dinners became regular occurrences where Hazel helped cook and Paige laughed more easily each time. She showed them Liam's room, told stories about him, and cried without shame when grief hit her. Owen shared stories about his wife, about the early days, and the terrible, swift end. They formed an unlikely unit, not a replacement family, but something new. A chosen family built on shared understanding. At work, Owen thrived. Within 6 months, Paige promoted him to IT security director, earned through competence and results. One Sunday evening, nearly a year after that terrible day, they sat in Paige's garden watching the sunset. Hazel was drawing in her sketchbook. "I've been seeing a therapist," Paige said. "For 6 months, dealing with the grief, the guilt." "How's it going?" Owen asked. "Hard, but helpful." She asked what I'd learned this past year, and I realized the answer was you, both of you. You taught me that living doesn't dishonor the dead, that moving forward doesn't mean leaving them behind, that it's possible to carry grief and joy at the same time. You taught us something too, that accepting help doesn't make you weak, that letting people in is how you heal, that second chances come from unexpected places. Hazel looked up. "Are you guys going to cry?" They laughed. "Maybe a little, but good crying." "Okay," Hazel said pragmatically. "Can I show you my drawing?" It was a picture of 3 people in a garden, 2 adults and 1 child, with flowers all around and birds in the sky. "It's us," Hazel explained. "We look happy." "We are happy," Paige said with wonder. "We really are." Owen looked at his daughter, at this woman who'd taken a chance on them, at the garden that had become a second home. He thought about that day when everything fell apart, about how Paige had stepped forward and changed everything with 4 simple words. "Come home with me." It had seemed like an ending, but it had been a beginning, the start of healing for all of them. The sun continued its descent, painting the garden gold. In the house, lights came on automatically, welcoming and warm. And Owen Hayes understood that second chances weren't about getting back what you'd lost. They were about building something new from the pieces that remained, about finding grace in unexpected places, about learning that the worst days could lead to the best beginnings. They gathered their things to head inside. Hazel collected her drawings, chattering about her next project. Paige held the door open, her smile genuine. Owen, carrying his daughter's backpack and feeling lighter than he had in years, stepped into the warm house. That night, as Owen tucked Hazel into bed, she asked, "Dad, do you think Miss Paige is happy now?" Owen thought about the woman who'd smiled at dinner, who'd laughed at Hazel's jokes, who'd shown them pictures of Liam without crying. "I think she's getting there, sweetheart. Same as us." "Good," Hazel said, eyes drifting closed. "Everyone deserves to be happy, even when sad things happen." "Especially then," Owen agreed, kissing her forehead. He went to his own room, where a framed photo of his wife smiled from the nightstand. "We're okay," he whispered, as he did most nights. "Hazel's thriving. I found meaningful work. We have people who care about us. I think you'd like Paige. She's broken like we were, but she's healing. We're all healing." Outside, the city moved through its nightly rhythms. Inside, 3 people who'd been strangers a year ago slept peacefully, their lives forever intertwined. They'd learned that sometimes the worst days led to the best tomorrows, that dignity in defeat was its own victory, and that family wasn't always something you were born into. Sometimes it was something you built from the wreckage of what came before. In the morning, they'd wake and do it again. The work, the dinners, the small kindnesses that accumulated into something larger. They'd continue healing, continue growing, continue choosing each other, because that's what second chances required. Not a single grand gesture, but 1,000 small decisions to keep showing up, keep trying, keep believing that broken things could be made beautiful again. "Come home with me," Paige had said, and Owen had accepted. Now, a year later, he understood that home had never been about a building. Home was Hazel's laugh and Paige's smile and Sunday dinners in the garden. Home was trust rebuilt and grief acknowledged, and the slow, patient work of becoming whole again. Home was right here, in this imperfect, beautiful life they'd built together from the ashes of what they'd lost. And that was more than enough. It was everything.